Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 10 of the Moving Forward podcast. The third week in a row, I am being joined by Sean Samples. And to start this one, we are reacting to game one. Sean, what was your biggest takeaway from game one of the NBA Finals?
I'd say my biggest takeaway is just how inept it seemed the Bucks were at covering the pick and roll with Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul was pretty much doing whatever he wanted out there. He was getting any shot, and they just kind of looked helpless. He was just picking apart Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez, like whoever was on that roll with them. It was just easy money, and if they happened to just drop it or they happened to play up just a little bit, then he would just throw the lob right to Ayton every time. So I was surprised because the Bucks had the same situation with Trae Young last series, and even though he got hurt, it seems like they adjusted to that better. So I thought they'd drop back in coverage, kind of similar to what they did when they adjusted after game one with Trae Young, but it just seemed like they were totally unprepared for that, and that was probably the biggest difference making play in that game was just Chris Paul just abusing that pick and roll.
Yeah,
What
I
do you
100%,
think?
yeah, I 100% agree. It's I find it super weird because you're right. They are going into a challenge where I guess they have more guys to worry about doing the pick and roll because they have Booker and Chris Paul instead of just really worrying about Trae Young. Trae Young was the primary like ball handler, but we saw in the first half they decided to switch everything. They they only gave up 8 points, or there was an 8 point differential. And then the second half, they did that drop screen, which almost seemed like it was worse, but technically they did have better defense and they only gave up 5 more points in the second half. So it's weird. I don't know what they're going to try to do. My main thing that I wrote down is because how poorly, the Suns did shooting the ball was maybe try to go small just because Giannis playing a five is still really big and PJ Tucker plays bigger than he is. But if Giannis has that hurt knee, that's kind of a lot to have him be playing center against Ayton over and over and over again and keep on putting Giannis in that pick and roll situation. So I don't know what their adjustment is going to be for this game, but I'm really interested to see what it will be because Brook Lopez was straight up awful on defense, even
Yeah.
though he did give you some 3 point shooting ability.
We didn't get the legendary Game 6 Brook Lopez game. It just seems also another thing that really stood out to me about Milwaukee is their just lack of bench talent and maybe just talent in general. I don't know if it's just because Phoenix is more deep and they seem like the better team, but that just when you're rolling out Jeff Teague for 10 minutes in the game, just washed up Jeff Teague, that just shows me that they don't really have any other options they can go to and they don't feel comfortable with the talent they have. So that is a big issue with Milwaukee right now. And they skated by in the Eastern Conference Finals because it was just kind of a weird year, but I don't think this team is built to be a finals champion.
Yeah, I agree too. I think the lack of depth it really shows. Like even though the Suns did lose Dario Saric and they're going to lose them for the rest of the year, like that's not the biggest piece that they lost. If you told me like the Sun or the Bucks probably lose like I'm trying to see who's like comparable to Dario Saric on that roster, but it's like say that they lost like Brent Forbes, like even though Brent Forbes isn't like your best player, but he's still your eighth best player on your team. And I don't think Brent Forbes can be the eighth best player on a championship team just because how poorly he defends. So I agree. The lack
Right.
of bench talent is really, really bad. And then when they do want to go small, I don't think Connaughton is the best, you know, choice.
Yeah, I don't know what Connaughton is. Like, he's an okay defender, he's an okay scorer, shooter, but like, I don't know what he brings to the table when you're playing that at that elite level, like a finals level game. You really want to go to Pat Connaughton as your sixth guy, seventh guy off the bench? Like, I just wouldn't feel comfortable if I was a Bucks fan, like rooting on Pat Connaughton as he comes strolls into the game. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't feel confident if I were them.
Yeah, and the main thing that sticks out for him is the fact that how good of a defender he's supposed to be, but yet every single time he's in the game, they're hunting. They're doing what LeBron used to do all the
Yeah,
time against the Warriors. They're just hunting for the player that they want for one-on-one situation. And Chris Paul was killing him one-on-one. He was killing him in the pick and roll, and so is Devin Booker. And the scariest part of this whole thing is, we'll get into game two in a second. The scariest part is the Phoenix Suns were awful from three, and they're
hmm
traditionally a really good three-point shooting team, and the Bucks give up the second most amount of threes per game in the NBA. So it's like the Suns are a really good three-point shooting team. They killed you in mid-range. What is your adjustment? Give up threes? They're going to kill you with threes.
yeah. It just seemed like they're a little overmatched. And like you said, if the Suns just shoot normal or average tonight, like I don't see the result changing. Like we can get into a little bit more later, but just what I saw from the first game, it might be like an overreaction, but I don't really see how the Bucks can change it unless Giannis just goes turbo mode and just takes over. But I don't know. Yeah, from what I saw in game one, it just doesn't look good for Milwaukee.
I agree. It does not look good for Milwaukee, especially the way Giannis played in the first half. He looked so explosive and he looked really like how everybody on Twitter was like, was Giannis even really hurt? Like we saw this terrible injury and look the way he's playing and how athletic he is. And then that second half, I don't know if it's just like he has to build back up his stamina or his knee started hurting him in the second half. He just looked a lot slower to me, especially in that second half and way less involved. And it seemed like he made a lot of sloppy plays down the stretches where he was either dribbling it off his foot out of bounds or he's relying too much on like shoving off with his elbow to get open down low on that charge call. It's just like seemed like he was making a lot more sloppy plays in the second half.
Yeah, I think actually, can we just take a moment to appreciate that Giannis came back and looked like full form after I thought he literally dislocated his knee on that play? Like,
Yeah.
he's just a freak of nature, man. Like, how did he come back that well? But yeah, I agree. In that second half, he certainly slowed down a little bit, but I don't know if I think it might have been more rust than just him not playing well because that was not a Giannis we've seen traditionally. So we'll see if game two it changes a little bit, but yeah, they're gonna need a big performance out of him.
Yep. Speaking of game two, wrapping up part one or game one, sorry, wrapping up game one here, moving on to game two. So in game two, we're going to do a little bit of a mixture of where we're going to talk about what the Suns and the Bucks are going to do, along with some gambling picks we have. So, what do you think the Suns need to do in game two better than they did in game one?
Well, I think you just touched on it a little bit ago. Obviously, shoot better. Um, I don't think they played a pretty solid game overall. Other than that, they just didn't shoot very well. I mean, it goes game to game, but honestly, just focus on taking Giannis away. Keep doing a good job on Drew Holiday. He looked super uncomfortable the whole game. And honestly, if I'm gonna break it down, just let Chris Middleton beat you. Like I can say that Chris Middleton's a good player, but I'd be very comfortable with letting him. Like if I'm gonna take away two players, I think it'd be Drew Holiday and Giannis. So keep taking them away and just let Chris Middleton like get his shots. I guess I don't think Chris Middleton's gonna beat the Suns on his own. So just follow the format and just keep doing what they did last game. Keep abusing that pick and roll, but yeah, I don't think there's much more that I can say about it.
Yeah, I am curious to see. Jay Crowder probably played like Jay Crowder, like a big hot and cold guy. He's been pretty hot of late. I don't know if this means he's starting on a cold streak, but he scored 1 point yesterday or on Tuesday, and he went, I think, 0 for 6 on 3 pointers. He didn't make a single field goal. So I would expect Jay Crowder to at least hit a couple buckets in this game. But as far as the Bucks side of things, like Jay Crowder or Drew Holiday looked way too passive. Like if they have so little bench depth, like you said, like if Brooke Lopez isn't giving you like 20 plus points, Drew Holiday needs to be more active. Like the shots you were taking are not like the shots you want Drew Holiday taking. So it's like if he needs to be more aggressive, he needs to get downhill. He's a really good finisher around the rim, but yet I don't recall him shooting around the rim that often. And then Giannis at the same time, maybe try a little bit more pick and roll with Giannis, maybe a little less ISO with Giannis, maybe try to get him involved a little bit earlier without isolation. But they got to find a way to get to the basket and get more free throws because a lot of people were crying and complaining about the free throw disparity from in game one, but I think a lot of it was the lack of attacking from the Bucks, really settling for a lot of 3 pointers.
Yeah, I think that also speaks to how much of a difference maker DeAndre Ayton's been in this playoffs, and he's going to be a difference maker in these finals because he just locks down that painted area. And I don't know, he's been such an improvement in this playoffs. I think I've seen anything like it. He's taken the step from like, all right, he's like DeAndre Ayton, like okay, like he's cool. Like I don't really think too much about him. And honestly, I think he's transforming the center position again because what the Suns have been able to do with him this playoffs is just something I think other teams need to model because he's doing it all, like rebounding, scoring, defending. It's just something to marvel at.
I 100% agree. The way, like, one thing that you're always taught as a center is never to swing too hard at block shots. And the way he stays vertical without like fouling, I think is super, super impressive. And
Oh yeah.
his speed to be able to cover like chase down distance on guards slash the way that he's like able to like cover on the perimeter. Like that's the things that are hurting like centers like Rudy Gobert, like Nikola Jokic, like Joel Embiid, guys like that who cannot stay in front of guards. Like Aiton has really, really good foot speed. So I really like what Aiton does. And the way that Chris Paul has transformed him, I just think speaks even more to how like we'll get into the gambling picks in a second, but I feel like if the Suns win, Chris Paul is a lock for the Finals MVP.
Ooh. No, I agree with that. Chris Paul is just he's taken like countless players at different level, but I don't know if I've ever seen him change a player like DeAndre Ayton. I think that's more on DeAndre Ayton because it seems like he just wants to win. Like you can see the passion in him, and like it's kind of an immeasurable trait, but he just plays so hard. And for a big guy with that much talent, playing that hard, it's something to see. And I think he's going to be a big difference maker in the NBA for years to come.
I agree. The only thing that I'll disagree with there is the only other time I remember Chris Paul elevating a player to this level of being a good center, would say is DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan has been so bad whenever he hasn't been with the Clippers and Chris Paul literally led him to be an all NBA player one year. So obviously not to the level of DeAndre and not to the talent of it, but I do think DeAndre Jordan was definitely elevated by Chris Paul to a higher magnitude because
Oh,
I
definitely.
trash everywhere else he's gone.
True. I didn't even think about DeAndre. I kind of exactly. I forgot about him. Ever since Chris
Yeah,
Paul left him, he's been just trash.
yeah, ever since he's gone to the Nets to die, literally was unplayable in the playoffs this year. But let's transition into our gambling picks. So I just want to throw out there real quick there is a boost on the night's game. If you do like the over on tonight's game, DraftKings is boosting it from instead of minus 105 to plus 150 over 220.5. But my gambling pick for this one will be Giannis over in rebounds. So Giannis had 17 rebounds in the first game, and I think you're going to see the Bucks play Bobby Portis slash Brooke Lopez even less. So I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis hits over his 12.5 rebounds again this game, plus 110.5. I really like those odds as well. So I'm going to be rolling with for this game, Giannis over 12.5 rebounds, along with the Suns minus 4.5. I just think the Suns are like they didn't even play that great of a game in game one, and I expect them to play even better in game two as far as shooting the ball. So I do like the Suns minus 4.5, even though that is a lot of points to give for a team that really needs to win this game.
Yeah, that's good picks right there. I'm gonna do the traditional, just Suns money line. Just book it. I would book it the rest of the way. But and the under, I'm gonna take the under. I feel like today only chance Milwaukee has of really making this competitive game if they just play scrappy defense and just really like put their nose in there and makes the Suns uncomfortable. So I think it's going to be like a grinded out game for Milwaukee. And with the regards of the shot making last game, you could see the teams are both like not shooting particularly well. So I'm going to roll with the under right now. I could be completely wrong, usually am, but that's what I'm going to go with. But then a sneaky future I've been looking at. Good value is Bucks and 6. It's like plus 2,000 right now, plus 3,000. It's a long shot, but if you're looking to make some good money, throw like a $5, $10 bet on that. Like who knows? Maybe this series could flip on its head if Giannis starts playing good. Like I don't know. I might throw a couple bucks on that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I feel like if as far as looking at I'm not telling anybody to take the over in the game. I was just mentioning the DraftKings boost, but I feel like whenever DraftKings does do a boost, especially like this, where it's not like the lines are moving at all in either direction, it's just like they're boosting one thing. They want people to hammer one thing. So I'm kind of with you on that whole under situation. But vice versa is if you're taking a finals MVP winner, like you missed out on your Chris Paul opportunity after game one. Like
Oh
if the
yeah.
Suns win, like it's for sure Chris Paul. If you're putting your money on any other Suns player, I think it's a bad idea. But I feel like you can get good value with Giannis being plus 500 to win Finals MVP. That's 5 times your money you're going to put down. And if the Bucks, like you said, turn this series on its head, it's going to be Giannis. And I don't see it any other way unless Chris Middleton literally scores like 35 points a game. I don't see any other way that it couldn't be Giannis for Finals MVP.
Yeah, I think there's two clear MVPs for both teams. It's gonna be either Giannis or CP3. I don't know how you can't give CP3 the MVP if the Suns win this series. Like it's just not gonna happen. People are just gonna give it to him no matter what. So I think that's the pick. But yeah, like you said, that's some good value. And Yeah, I might just do a Bucks and 6, Giannis MVP bet. Just throw it out there. Who knows?
Yeah, and then you can always just hedge with Suns money line every single game the rest of the
Yeah.
series if it doesn't pay out. So just to recap real quick, I'm telling you guys to take Giannis over 12 and a half rebounds at plus 110. I will join with Sean at the under of this game. I 100% agree with him. And I will also kind of throw in Suns minus 4.5, but Sean definitely has the safer pick with Suns money line. Sean, recap your picks real quick.
Yeah. So Suns money line, book it. Under, book it. Sprinkle in some Bucks futures, and yeah, call the day.
All right, that was our gambling segment. Now we will transition into our love hate of the week. So coming back here with the love hate category, Sean, do you want to give your love for this week?
Okay, I got two loves. I love the Suns crowd. They're awesome to watch. They're loud, passionate. Just seems like a giant party in there. Everyone just seems like hammered or something. I don't even know if they're on drugs or anything, but they're just having a great time. And they painted the crowd. Everyone's just screaming their hearts out, and it just really speaks to like how much we miss NBA crowds. Like last year's finals was like historically, yeah, it was like it meant something, but like it wasn't the same at all. Like watching without the fans, like you didn't feel the intensity that you feel. Like this Suns crowd is just showing up, and it just feels like a finals game again.
How many times do you think, like, if you had to put like a number on it, how many times do you think we saw those fans in the front row, the two dudes with the bleach blonde hair next to each other?
Oh
The
my,
long bleach blonde hair, the guys who are just losing their mind. And
oh
then every
yeah.
single time the dude with like the dark brown hair, they pan to him and he's always got the Suns in four up. Like, do I think the Suns will win in four? No, but I love how every single Suns fan just is like Suns in four now, just with the
That's
big
just a
four.
movement now. They might have to just make that their team tagline after this year. Like
Yeah.
playoff, print the shirts. They should just print the shirts for tonight. You know how they do the playoff shirts? Just do Suns
Yeah.
and four shirts.
Not four, just faux. Suns in
Oh,
four. FOOO.
dude, that guy, that Suns and four guy is just cashing in on this clout. Did you see him with like Jamal Murray in that
Yeah,
picture?
I
They
did see
linked up.
that. Well, he lives in Denver. So it's funny that he
Yeah.
literally is a guy who's a Suns fan who lives in Denver, but yet fought the entire Denver crowd. And then I saw like he posted that picture with Jamal Murray and Austin Rivers commented like, "This isn't it at Jamal Murray. I'm going to be calling you." So I
What?
seems like he's a little disappointed that he's taking pictures with the guy who whooped a bunch of Nuggets fans' asses in the
Oh, that's
crowd.
right. Okay, Austin
Yeah.
Rivers. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But transitioning to my love, it's actually something that will be more in the future. But they did say this week that NBA Summer League is on full 30 teams. NBA Summer League in Vegas. There'll be no Utah Summer League, no Miami Summer League. It's just going to be 30 teams in Vegas. It'll be 1 week longer. They'll be playing one more game as well to help develop the rookies after them not being able to play in it last year. So they're expanding the summer league. I absolutely love this, especially with a year where the Pistons have such a promising young core and they're going to be adding 4 more players to this team with 1 first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. So I couldn't be more happy to watch this summer league because like if Cade plays, if Killian plays, like Killian should play. He missed out on most of the season. He needs this development time. Like Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart are already out in Vegas. Saban Lee, Sekou, like the amount of young players on this Pistons team, like if I can bet a future on an NBA team to win the summer league, which I think you can, I would definitely throw my money at the Detroit Pistons. Like this could be our
Yeah.
championship. This could be our NBA finals,
No, I think this is literally the summer league team might be like their starting five for the actual season.
except for
So
Jeremy Grant. That's
except
it.
for Jeremy, yeah. No, I mean that's it. But I think everyone's gonna play. But unfortunately, our boy Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart, did sprain his ankle today. I just saw that pop up, which sucks. But hopefully he's ready for the summer league. But yeah, I agree. That's gonna be a must watch. Like every Pistons game is gonna be a must watch. And I think it's cool all the teams are in the same like area. I don't know why they ever like split it up.
I didn't like that
Because
before either. How there was like 6 teams that played, and then some teams played in multiple leagues, and then like only 24 teams played in Vegas. They just decided to lock it down this year. We're playing in Vegas. We're playing in these 2 arenas. Literally, like if you want to watch sports during the day, which is why I've been such a big soccer fan over the last couple of weeks, is just because they're on during the day. It's like these Vegas games will be on all day, so it's like perfect. Like you can sit there. You want to watch the Pistons, you can record the Pistons to watch them later, catch the big games. Like, do you remember how big of a deal it was when Zion was in the summer league and he was playing his first game and
oh
everything?
yeah.
Like, I'm just real excited for the summer league to be back, especially with hopefully all the big name guys playing in the summer league.
Yeah, that'll be a must watch for sure.
All right, Sean, your second love.
Okay. My second love of this week was the Jimmy Butler and Rachel Nichols jokes on Twitter. So I don't know I don't know if our listeners heard, but there's rumors that Jimmy Butler and Rachel Nichols were very romantically
Let's
involved
get
in
it
the bubble,
on.
to the point where Jimmy Butler got a noise complaint for dribbling in his room. Might have been dribbling her head off a headboard, but that's beside the point. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah, oh my gosh, Twitter was on fire that day, and I was just scrolling through, like, you can like click on the trend button, like
Hmm.
Jimmy Butler's trending. I was just scrolling through them, just laughing my ass off. So yeah, that was
I
the
think
one
it's so
I loved.
funny. The whole Rachel Nichols thing this week has been pretty bad in general, just like
Oh yeah,
some of the things she said. I don't think like she said anything like racist or anything. I just think like she came out on the bad side of this like whole thing. Like I like she's I just don't agree with all of the things she said. She just made it sound really bad, saying that
oh
Maria
yeah,
Taylor doesn't deserve what she's gotten. I think Maria Taylor is probably like one of the best NBA analysts like out there. Like I think she does a great job on NBA Countdown. But the
definitely.
whole thing with like her, like the other like side of this that's like actually funny is like the memes of being like because she's actually married. So it's like
Yeah,
seeing Rachel, it was like Marvin's room and it was uh Rachel Nichols' husband watching a Miami Heat game.
yeah.
And it was just so
I
funny.
saw that one.
The situation in general is bad, but this Jimmy Butler, Rachel Nichols side of things is hysterical. And the memes of them like looking back and forth at each other with like this
Oh my
intense like
gosh.
gaze in their eyes is like
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah, I was gonna like I'll roll right into things I hated then, 'cause I did also hate the other Rachel Nichols comment, and it was kind of like a weird moment for me because I didn't realize that other part of it was going on. So as I
Mhm.
was scrolling deeper and deeper into Twitter, I then pieced together that she did say some like controversial things. So I was like, oh wait, now this is kind of weird, but I'm still laughing, and I was just in a whole pickle with my brain at that point. But yeah, I did not like what she actually said, but the jokes kind of made up for it.
Yeah, there was definitely two sides of the coin on that one, where it's one side is she was mad that she was replaced, which I can understand, but to say it was because of that reason is completely unwarranted. Like it's not like it's like Maria Taylor is a very like established journalist, and I've never heard anything ever be bad said about her. Like so to just say that is ridiculous. But then the other side of things with like the Jimmy Butler stuff was super funny. So it was pretty hit or miss. It depended
Yeah,
on what kind of mood you wanted to be in and what kind of stuff you wanted to see. So it's like you want to see the funny stuff, you want to see the serious stuff. I get it makes sense.
yeah.
But
I
my hate for this week, you're gonna say it's a love. It's my hate is Hunter
Okay.
Dickinson returning to Michigan for one more
Oh,
year. He's basically said that this is his last year at Michigan. He said one last ride. So
fine.
yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense. But I think Michigan's probably going to be one of the best teams in basketball this year. They had either the number one, I think the number two recruiting class this season behind Duke, or the number one or two, Duke or Michigan.
number
But
one.
number one,
Just want to
but they're going to
clarify
be
that.
one of the best teams this year in college basketball. So I was pretty mad when I saw that Hunter Dickinson came back for one more year. Do I think it was the smart decision? Yes, but I do hate it. I don't think he's going to be that great of an NBA player. But with the way that the NBA is like transforming right now, with DeAndre Ayton kind of just being like a low post guy, he might actually be a good NBA player. But who knows? I just hated the decision because I think Hunter Dickinson's a really talented, kind of reminds me of like a Luca Garza type college basketball player.
Yeah, if Hunter Dickinson somehow gains foot speed and then a right-handed jump shot, he might be DeAndre Ayton. But yeah, I don't know why he even considered NBA draft in the first place. I don't think he's an NBA ready player yet. But yeah, that was giant news for me. I thought he was coming back. Like I figured he would, but just to have it confirmed was great. And then our transfer from Coastal Carolina, that guard, apparently I didn't even know, but he was going testing the draft as well, and he's coming back for sure. So yeah, Michigan's just gonna be loaded. We go 8 deep with like talent next year. So, oh, I cannot wait to talk about those games with you.
Yeah, I'm not going to be looking forward to that. But that was our love hate category. Oh, one more thing. I don't think I've ever seen so many players like enter into the draft and then come out of the draft. Like there was a lot of big names that entered in that just ended up pulling out, which I was kind of surprised by. Like
Yeah,
the second round talent in this draft, like they're still like your first round guys who are like a for sure thing. But the second round talent in this draft definitely decreased a lot. I saw a lot of guys like Johnny Juzang. I would have been pretty high on, especially as a second round pick. Terrence Shannon out of Texas Tech. I'm surprised that he came back for another season. Kofi Coburn, he's coming back, but not to Illinois. So it was really surprising to see like the second round talent in this draft is decreasing immensely.
Yeah, super not happy Jonathan Juzang's coming back. Probably one of my worst memories. He's just been lumped in with Dante DiVincenzo as my and Luke Hancock. They're all in a little separate group of my personal Michigan hates. But yeah, I agree. It was kind of weird seeing all those names come back. Like and Kofi Coburn not going to Illinois. That's a pretty big story that no one's really
I
talking
think
about.
Illinois is falling apart at the seams right now. I don't think anybody really likes their head coach. They had that conversation that was recorded privately, basically where all the players were calling out the coach for not liking him. And so I just think that Illinois thing is falling apart at the seams. Can they pull it back together? I don't know. I thought they were a really talented team last year, but
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to be able to pull it back together.
I think it's the coach's hair that would throw me off too.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
The weird slick back.
So we do hate his hair. So that was wrapping up the love hate category. After the quick little break, we will be returning with draft prep for the Oklahoma City Thunder with pick 6 and the Warriors with pick 7. So, welcome back to the draft preparation of the draft, where Sean and I are slowly making our way through the first round, kind of seeing what other teams should do with their first round pick. Sean, I really went in depth this week on the Oklahoma City Thunder and what I think their pick should be. So, if you will let me go on my little rant right here about the Thunder, I'd love to tell you my thoughts real
I
quick.
love it. I'm all ears.
Okay, so we've heard for forever there's this top 4 in the draft, and it makes a whole lot of sense. And kind of Jonathan Kuminga, who I said should be the 5th pick, I kind of said that on my last episode. He kind of falls into that 5th category. But this guy that I think the Thunder should take should definitely be up there with Kuminga, and possibly in a few years might be even better than him. Even better than a couple of guys in the top 4. And that player is Scotty Barnes. I have the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting Scotty Barnes with the 6th pick. I don't think it's a reach at all, considering what we saw him do in college, especially in the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament when he started to shine a little bit more, when he started to be a little bit more aggressive scoring the ball. That's my one knock on him, is his lack of like how much we saw him play in college. So he was mostly a 6-man for this Florida State team, who was really talented, but he only started 7 games for them, only playing 24.8 points or minutes per game. But what he does do is do a lot of things for you. He averaged 10.3 points off the bench, had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, averaged half a block a game, 1.5 steals, and 2.5 turnovers. So for me, you really got to cut down on those turnover numbers, but he probably won't be a primary guy, especially in the NBA. The one thing that does scare me the most is if you see a guy who isn't a great 3-point shooter, you usually look at his free throw percentage to see like maybe he just struggles with the like depth of the shot and he needs to fix that. But he was only a 62% free throw shooter in college and was only 27.5% from 3. So it makes me think like even with the NBA, it gets even further out. Like it's going to be a lot harder for him to shoot the ball. And that's like a main part of his game that really needs to develop. A lot of people are saying he's doing great in the workouts and everything. He was part of the draft combine and did a good job. But basically, we had a pretty small sample size from him in college of like really being aggressive, which was the ACC and NCAA tournament. But his raw athleticism and talent is absolutely insane. I'd like to see him shoot more, but a for sure thing for Scotty Barnes is he will be an elite defender. And my NBA comp for him is Jonathan Isaac. So that's what I had down for Scotty Barnes.
I like that a lot. And like I like Scotty Barnes and like what theoretically he could do for a team, like with his defense and his versatility, size, ball handling. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable as a team in the NBA right now drafting a person that has question marks at shooting. Like we've seen with Ben Simmons. I don't know if he's at the Ben. He's definitely not the Ben Simmons level of shooting. That's just a whole another level of bad. But someone like that, someone with defensive skill, maybe some ball handling ability, passing ability. He still cannot play minutes in the playoffs. And if I'm thinking long term as a franchise, I want to draft guys that can help me down the line when we're eventually good enough to be in the playoffs. So that is why I'd be hesitant in Scotty Barnes. But with that being said, we've seen players develop jump shots, and I think the value at number 6 that Thunder could get out of him is the perfect landing spot for him if he's not taken by then, because I have seen a lot of people having the Magic draft him at 5. So another couple names I want to throw out there for the Thunder, possibly. Kuminga, and then maybe a flyer on Keon Johnson. Because I think the Thunder, amidst their rebuild, they just need to take high level, high talent players that have lots of upside. I think Kuminga and Keon Johnson fit that perfectly because they are definitely hit or miss. But if you do happen to hit on either of those and they become like mid-level stars, maybe even like higher superstar level, then that's just like the ideal situation, what you want out of a rebuilding team.
100% agree. I do like what Kuminga could bring to the Thunder, and I do like what Keon Johnson can bring, especially because I think that Shea Gildress is more of a one than a two. He can play
Hmm.
the two, and he can, but I think he was better. He showed how good he was at the one this year. So I think that's really great. My only thing being caught up is if I'm the Magic, I don't really think I'd go for Scotty Barnes over Kuminga because I think Kuminga is more of a pure scorer, which I think they really need because if you put Jonathan Isaac and Scotty Barnes right next to each other, that'd be some lockdown wings, but neither of them are known to be scorers unless Jonathan Isaac really makes a jump that he hasn't really shown quite yet on offense. So that's my only thing with the Magic. But with the Thunder, I don't think you can really miss on any guys here at six.
Yeah,
Like I feel like there's a lot of guys who will come in and definitely help you right away. And with how bad that roster is, minus like Shea and like Lou Dort and a couple other pieces, I really don't think you can miss with anything here. They're going to have a lot of first round picks. I think three of them. They're going to have a lot of chances to really make this work. So I
exactly.
think one of those guys is definitely the pick there.
Yep.
Moving on to the Warriors, who have the seventh pick still right now. Who knows? A lot of rumors saying that the Warriors could possibly trade this seventh pick or this 14th pick. They have two picks this round, but we'll be focusing on the seventh pick this time. Sean, we've talked about in depth how Davion Mitchell would be a really good fit off the bench for them. But if they wanted to go more of a different route, what do you think they could do there?
So yeah, Davion Mitchell's still my first choice for them, but I did come up with another name, very interesting one that he's getting a lot of buzz lately. It's James Bouknight out of UConn. He's one of the most intriguing names in the draft because of the way we've seen his name fly up and down the draft board. Like he started off the season, not even the season, this draft season as like maybe a 20 level, 16, 20 like level pick. But now I've been seeing his name thrown out in the top five. Like the range of where he's being named is like crazy to me. And it's because of his just crazy shot making, his crazy athleticism. But the only problem is he's not a great 3-point shooter. So he can make shots like off the dribble. He can create his own shot, like 2 pointers, mid range, like get to the bucket. But his 3-point percentage in college was like below 25%, I'm pretty sure. So that is one of the biggest questions marks in the draft. But if I'm the Warriors and I'm looking for a good like shot creator, shot maker, someone to like help score off the bench when Steph and Clay aren't there, and potentially in the future playing between them, like maybe do a little Steph at point, Bouknight at two, and then Clay running the three. Like that's a dangerous lineup if he can come to the level that scouts are saying he could. So that's a name I wanted to throw out there at 7.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that name. I think that is a pretty like I don't know because at the start of the year I heard a lot of Book Night top 10 and then obviously after his really poor NCAA tournament run, like he had one of the worst games I've seen from a superstar play in the NCAA tournament against Maryland. Like I really considered like watching some of the games in the Big East tournament, I considered him to be a really great shot creator and like you said, I just watched him against that Maryland team who has had a really good defensive guard, but still he really struggled. But all the claims after the season's ended is how he's working on his standstill jumper, is like how he's working on his catch and shoot jump shot so that he knows in the NBA he's not going to be the shot creator all the time. So if he's improving that 3-point shot, which he did shoot 82% last year from free throw, so he is a good shooter and he's obviously shown at mid range. Obviously, he just needs to work on that range. I 100% agree with Book Knight. Another
Yeah.
name that is more of a reach for me if they want to go more of the forward aspect, which is where I think they hurt as well. This, especially if they try to move on from Wiggins this offseason and package him with a deal, is a pick that kind of risky, but I do like Jalen Johnson out of Duke slash left Duke early. I feel like
Oof.
that's a reach for him really early at 7. I think he could be there for them at 14. I don't know. He might fall a little bit before then, but I do like what Jalen Johnson brings to the table. He's a more of a shot creator over guys like France Wagner, who I've also looked at in this situation. He's more of a creator there. He might be a little bit worse of a standstill shooter, and he's just as good as a defender, but He did have a lot of issues at Duke, so I'm not 100% sure how I feel about Jalen Johnson. I feel like, to me, like Davion Mitchell, a guy like that, or if Keon Johnson does fall to you, if you want a playmaking guard, I feel like those two guys are really huge for them. And I feel like they should go a guard who can play off the bench, especially.
Yeah, if you think like from the Warriors perspective too, like if I was shoot, who's their Bob Myers, their GM, if I was him right now, I'm thinking we got Clay coming back next year. We have a couple solid pieces around him. Obviously we have Steph still. We have Wiseman who's a question mark. Like what else do we need? And I think you need kind of a guarantee. And I think Davion Mitchell would kind of be that guarantee. I think he's the safest pick here. So I don't know if they would draft for value or like a maybe a question mark, but Jalen Johnson is an interesting name because if you put him around veterans like Draymond, Steph, Clay, they're not going to put up with any of that BS he was doing at Duke. Like I think they'll put him in his place very quickly. And I think especially Draymond would do that. Like he's not going to take any of his guff. So that's an interesting pick from there. But yeah, I think the Warriors do actually have a lot of options at that number 7 spot.
I 100% agree. And when you said like they don't know if they could go with a question mark, that's why I think like the more and more I think about it, that like this pick is going to be traded. Like they're going to try to package something. They're going to try to keep one of these two, 7 or 14, and it just makes the most sense for them to keep a 14. And then you can take a for sure thing at 14, and then you can let a team take a question mark at 7 when you can get a for sure thing with that pick if you package it with some kind of like Wiseman Wiggins kind of thing. So the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think like the 7th pick is not where you want to take, like, if especially if you're a team trying to hit on something big, and if you're the Warriors who have playoff aspirations next year, that's when I think like they're not going to go for a question mark. They're going to try to go for a for sure thing. That makes me think more and more they're going to try to trade that pick, especially at 7.
I got a question for you though. After seeing what Aiton's done in the playoffs from the center position, would you still, as the Warriors, trade Wiseman without trying to give him a chance of becoming or training him to become something like Aiton is right now? Because I think they have similar skill sets.
I 100% agree. I do think they have similar skill sets. And like, I think Wiseman is kind of a little bit worse version of Aiton. They have very similar athleticism, which is a good part. I think Wiseman, for the longest I can remember, has been the best player everywhere he's gone. So I don't think he's really had to be like a grit and grind type center like Aiton has had to been. And I think he walked into the season last year thinking like he can still do whatever he wants, but it was a harsh reality for him. So I would definitely give him one more season. Like,
Yeah.
if after Aiton's first season, I didn't think Aiton was the greatest. I thought he was pretty good. And that's the kind of the same way I think about Wiseman. Like, I thought he was pretty good, but like really inconsistent. So I definitely don't think you move on from him yet, especially a guy you take with the second overall pick. I think you got to give it one more year. But the only thing is, if you give him one more year, he's really bad. That's really going to hurt the trade value. Like, you look at Marvin Bagley, a lot of people were saying this about Marvin Bagley after his first year. Like, he was just hurt. He didn't get a chance. Like, his trade value is high, but now look at him. He's at the end of his rookie deal. And I don't think anybody would touch him with a contract unless it was like a mid-level exception, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would if I was the Warriors, I'm doing anything I can just to just train him this offseason, try to become something like Aiton is. But you're right. I mean, it's a risk because if he doesn't pan out, then you waste another year of Stephen Clay and Draymond. And their days are numbered. Like everyone's getting older. Like Draymond's diminishing fast. We haven't seen Clay play in 2 years. Like you kind of have to make these years count. So I mean, it's a risk, but yeah, I'm sticking with Wiseman for the time being, unless you can package it for someone like Siakam, which would be super dumb on the Toronto's part. But yeah,
Yeah, I think that's totally you'd have to put together a huge, it'd have to be Wiggins, Wiseman, the 7th pick, the 14th pick for Siakam, and maybe one more pick in the future as well,
yeah, that won't even make
possibly.
sense for the Warriors at the end of the day. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd just be too much. So, wrapping up this episode, really good one. Broke down some game one, talked about some gambling in game two, some love hate, and then kind of some draft stuff. So, look forward to everybody hearing this. Let us know what you think the Thunder and the Warriors should do. Your gambling picks for this game. We're going to get this one out just before game two tips off. It'll be out for a little bit. So I look forward to hearing anybody. Leave it in the Twitter mentions what your picks are with tonight. Sean and I mentioned ours. We're riding with mostly we agree the Suns are going to win this game. It just depends how they're going to do it. It will be a close one. It will be a blowout. Both of us think it's going to be scrappy. So we're booking the under tonight. Both Sean and I are riding. So if the game ends up
Sure.
being over, you're more than welcome to call us stupid on Twitter.
Please. I welcome it. And
Yeah.
the offer still stands if you shout us out and share the podcast. I will write you a thank you note. I don't know how I'll get it to you, but I'll write it for you.
Yes, we will write in-depth thank you notes, like a grad
Passionate
party
ones.
where we had to find a specific detail about you being there and make you feel special for coming.
Of course.
Of course.
Yes.
So thank you everyone for listening to episode 10. We're hitting the double digits of podcast now. You can catch Sean and I again next week on Thursday or Friday. And then you can always hear me by myself on Monday. I'll be recapping game 2 and game 3 there. So thank you everybody for listening, and peace.
Peace.